Today on JiK Labs, we're going to look at cells, and sometimes the formatting or the case, upper or lower, isn't always what it should be. So we're going to show you how you can change those formats by using the equations upper, lower, and proper. Let's get started. Now that we have Excel open and ready to go, we're looking at some data that we have. And like we said, we want to change the case of that data because sometimes you're going to import some data, get some data, or other users will enter the data and it's not going to be exactly how you want it to be. So right now we have two test samples. We have this is a test, pretty clear cut, but then we have welcome to Excel with a bunch of different letters that are uppercase and lowercase. So we're going to look at how to adjust all those cells to be more uniform. So the very first equation, we're going to look at upper, and as you guessed it, it's going to make everything uppercase. So we're going to come in here and hit equals, and we're going to type in upper, and just as you guessed, it's going to take everything in that text string and make it uppercase. We're going to select A2 and close the parentheses. And as you can see, this is a test in all caps. We're going to come down here, copy it down, and we can see welcome to Excel now is all caps. So now that we have everything in all caps, but what if we wanted them in all lowercase? So we're going to come in here and do lower, open the parentheses, select A2, and just as you guessed, everything now is in lowercase. Proper is a little bit different. Proper takes the first letter of every word and makes it capitalized. Kind of like if we were having, let's say, names like Bob A. Smith, and they were all lowercase, and we would come here, we have capital B, A, and the S. So that's what proper is going to do. So once again, come in here, we're going to type in proper, open those parentheses, select our cell reference, close them up, and hit enter. And as you can see, this is a test, and welcome to Excel. Now the first letter of every word is capitalized. Upper, of course, everything is uppercase. Lower, everything is lowercase. Proper, the first letter of every word is uppercase. So we're going to come in here and show you what these equations look like. It's pretty easy. Upper in the cell reference, lower in the cell reference, proper in the cell reference. So there's a very simple way to change the case by utilizing upper, lower, and proper, because sometimes if you're typing in the data, you'll have a uniform format as how you enter it. But as you can see, you never know how someone's going to type it in. It could have been that caps was on and everything is reversed or what have you. But these three equations make it easy to make your text very uniform. But one thing that we haven't mentioned that is over here is trim. Well, what is that for, and how does that have to do with changing the case? Well, first of all, it doesn't. But let's look at this cell A2 and edit it. You can see, I don't know if you can see right now, but the cursor is very far away because when this was typed in, the space bar got hit a bunch of times by accident. But what trim does is you come in here and we can equals trim, highlight that cell or select the cell, close the parentheses, and hit enter. What trim does, it takes your cell reference and cuts off all the extra spaces at the end. Sometimes if you're trying to match a reference, well, this is a test ends or this is a test followed by a bunch of spaces. They're not the same thing. So sometimes it is necessary to trim your data. So we just copy this one down. So let's come in here and show you what the trim equation looks like. And it's trim, the cell reference in which you want to cut off the extra spaces. Again, trim is not always necessary, but sometimes if you have a data sample that you're trying to cross-reference or match, extra spaces at the end of text is not going to allow that match. So trim function allows you to trim that down, and now you can match the data. So one other thing I want to show you guys, let's come in here, edit this cell, and we're going to add a bunch of spaces, A3. As you can see, we're going to add the spaces, and then we're going to try to trim it. We're going to come in here and say equals trim, open those parentheses, and we're going to go proper. because we want to uniformly, in one fell swoop, make all of our data uniform and trim them. So we're going to trim equation, and we opened it up that thing. We're putting in the proper. We're selecting A3 because that's where it's all crazy. And we've added those spaces, close those parentheses, and we hit enter. And now we have a nice uniform welcome to Excel that is trimmed of all the additional or excess spaces that come after the word Excel. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add in a row here. And we're going to come in as this, add in a bunch of spaces, is another test with a bunch of extra spaces. And we're not going to worry about upper and lower and trim them, all that, or proper. We're going to come in here and say trim. And we're going to select A4. Not only does trim cut the excess spaces at the end of it, it cuts excess spaces everywhere within the function. So trim just doesn't cut the end, it cuts all of the additional spaces that you may have in your data. Thanks for joining JiK Labs today as we looked at upper, lower, proper, and the trim functions in Microsoft Excel, allowing you to make your data more uniform, more reader-friendly, and just more presentable overall. Thanks for watching, and see you all next week. Trim takes a cell and it Microsoft Excel.